Welcome everyone to another episode of the Spread the Positive podcast. I'm your host, Trent Denson. Got a really special guest with us today. Someone I genuinely admire and look up to and think actually just goals in every sense of the word. It's Miss Britnie Turner. She is the founder of Aerial Development Group, Aerial Produce, Aerial Recovery Group, and Aerial Global Community. A lot of aerials and a lot of stuff that she's done and created over the past few years. Everything is super in line with Spread the Positive, and just super pumped to have her on. So, Britnie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored.
Absolutely. So, typically how we do it, a little backstory, where you're from, what childhood was like, and any early passions, anything along those lines.
I grew up in a super modest family out on a farm in South Carolina.
Nice.
I'm one of 6 kids.
Nice.
I'm the second oldest,
Okay.
and we were all homeschooled.
Okay.
And I think that had a pretty profound effect on our life. I didn't really think about it until I got older, but we were raised without TV.
Okay.
We were really raised like the previous generation.
Okay.
And we had to create what we thought would be cool.
Right.
And we didn't really have a lot of outside influence on who we were supposed to be or anything like that. And I grew up loving.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's like Laura Ingalls, my mom always said.
There you go.
So we just designed what we really cared about,
Right.
and I'm very practical and logical. And so when people would tell me I was supposed to be something, I'm like, that doesn't really make why.
Right.
Why? And so interesting when you reconnect with society and how they function. It was a little different, but I think that it was a blessing to be able to start with being really self-taught, and being able to decide what we wanted to be. But it doesn't mean you're always confident in it, you know? So
right. I'm sure that was really
but it
tricky.
was helpful. It was helpful. So didn't have a ton of crazy ambitions as a child. I was kind of just a messy goofball, and I loved animals. Always loved the innocent, animals, babies,
Right.
or the elderly.
Right.
And I always found a way to just get involved with helping in some way. And
Nice.
that
I totally
was,
relate to that.
but I did not have a massive vision for my life. I didn't have the concept of ever starting a business or doing anything remotely close to what I'm doing now besides my work in Africa.
Wow. So that was always just a deep-rooted thing to like help and serve.
I love that. I've
Yeah.
been like that since I was little.
Just a big heart and totally relate. It's gift and a curse, isn't it?
I can't, yeah.
So yeah, let's get into current life some. All of the aerials. Can you just speak on how they came about, why each one of them exists, anything along those lines?
So I wanted to be a missionary since I was 12.
Nice.
And I wanted to be a missionary in Africa. And so I would save all my money. I ended up working about 5 jobs at a time from 13 years old to, forever.
Right.
Now I really have 5 different organizations
Wow.
that I'm running. So it's funny. 5 is my thing.
There you
so
go.
when I was 12, I wanted to be a missionary. I'd go on these mission trips, and I felt really bad because I would just be really angry the
Right.
whole time.
Right.
And I felt guilty because I'm like, you're not supposed to feel this mad the whole time you're on a mission trip, because it's supposed to be some like holy experience. But
Right.
I was mad because I would see these horrible atrocities, and I was there to help, but I wasn't really helping.
Man.
I'm like feeding kids and building something or whatever, but I knew they'd be hungry tomorrow.
Right.
And so that frustration, which I have found and I have learned to let it serve me, because I'll just sit in a room now just irritated. And I'm like, what is wrong with you, man?
Right.
But it means I have a vision of a
Right.
higher standard.
Right.
And so instead of becoming angry or a hater, activist against blah, blah, blah,
Right.
try to template what is that vision of a higher standard, and how can I create a bridge from where the standard is now to where I see that it can be, and how can I empower other people to see that vision and get them there too. And so my companies were started because I was really moved when I met a little girl. So I was in Costa Rica on a mission trip, and we put on a women's conference, which sounds way fancier than it really was.
Right.
And I met this little girl at the end. We were praying over everybody, and I asked her name. She couldn't tell me, and I asked the translator what happened. And in this community, it was socially acceptable for fathers to break in their children as infants, and 1 out of every 4 babies were actually dying from being raped or horribly abused as like 4 months old. And it was just horrible, and her vocal cords were destroyed as an infant, and the look in her eyes of just complete hopelessness as something I'd never seen before. And I've never seen it in anywhere near where we live.
Right.
We live in such a blessed place with so much opportunity and resource. And I went back to my tent and I got on my knees and I said, God, whatever it looks like, I want to make this no longer a thing. That this can no longer be socially acceptable, that people don't look at people as their playthings.
Right.
And I heard loud and clear, I'm going to take you out of the mission field and I'm going to put you in business. And my entire identity, I went through missionary training school, I went through survival school, I was going to move to Africa. That was who I was. I had no grid for business. I didn't even like business people. I didn't like people with money. I thought they were greedy. And I was really mad at God when I felt like he told me. I was like, no, anything but that business is so boring. Please, anything else. But I went back to North Carolina at the time. And I bought my first house as an 18-year-old waitress in 2007 when they were giving everybody mortgages.
Right.
And because I had just had somebody come in and he said, who in here wants to be a missionary? And I raised my hand.
At the restaurant?
So I was in my ministry survival school.
Gotcha.
And some teacher came in and said, who wants to be a missionary? Who's ever had to raise money for a mission trip? And I had raised my hand. I was finally participating because I didn't really want to participate with this guy teaching because he was a rich guy. And I was like, ugh. And he said, who did not like the experience of raising money? I was like, me, this sucks. I hate this. And he said, did you know you can buy a house with no money down, which was 2007. And if your mortgage payment is $900 a month, but you rent it out for $1,200 a month, that's a thing called cash flow. And you get to keep that $300. I was like, go on.
Right.
He said, do that 10 times, you can live in Africa. And so I bought this first house at 18, and in the process of buying it, I found out you could do this thing called flipping houses, which I'd never heard of before because I still don't have TV.
Right.
And I found out you could make like $10,000, which is $1 billion to an 18-year-old.
Right.
And if you save those chunks of $10,000, you could have $100,000. And then you could buy an apartment complex and you could make $10,000 a month, and then you can tell everybody else to suck it.
Right.
And you can build your own orphanages
Right.
with that much money. Sorry to say suck it on
No,
here.
it's quite
but it's where I'm at.
absolutely right.
And so I loved the idea that nobody could cap my calling.
Yeah.
And I still am obsessed with the idea. And I love sharing that with other people because I believe that we're in a generation and a movement is happening on the earth of really passionate people and of all generations just wanting to live with some kind of meaning, some kind of connection, some kind of purpose, which is why I love the concept of spread the positive.
Right.
I really applaud you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
It's difficult, but it's amazing
Right.
that you're doing that.
Really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I realized, I don't remember what we were talking about actually.
Oh, just current life and all the stuff you got going. I mean, it's yeah, I love this.
Yeah.
This is what we do, just kind of getting the full raw emotion of where you came from and how this happened. So it's perfect.
Yeah.
Really well done.
Well, I ended up buying that first house and the market crashed and burned, but I wanted to learn how to flip houses.
Okay.
And I ended up, I had this big holy ambition and I thought everything would go right and I had zero backers. Family stopped talking to me for 2 years. Friends all said I was an idiot and didn't know me anymore. I went $35,000 in debt by having to survive on credit cards. My roommates weren't paying their rent and I was just starved out for 3 years.
Wow.
And I was studying everything I could get my hands on. And that's a huge thing. I didn't end up going to college because when I Googled which colleges teach you how to flip houses,
There's no such
nothing
thing,
popped
yeah.
up. I couldn't believe that
Right.
nothing popped up. So there wasn't that option. But go and get the education you need to learn what you need, to grow what you need to be able to walk in what you want to.
Right.
Thinking that you're going to find it always in a conventional schooling is unrealistic. And so I'm always learning. I'm always going to classes. I spend a ridiculous amount of money
Right.
on going to different courses and classes
Learning, yeah.
every year still.
Continual student.
I don't even listen
Yeah.
to music. I just listen to audiobooks all day
Same.
long. And
I
so,
used to be strictly new music all the time, and now I'm like, what's the newest pod? Or
Yeah.
the newest book I can listen to. So totally get it, and I can relate to so much of what you just said on, even like the missionary stuff. I didn't, do the Costa Rica stuff, but we would go on church trips to, like Alabama or Kentucky. I grew up in Nashville, North Carolina, and just like you, we would go there, know we were making an impact for what felt like 10 or 15 minutes, and then it was just going to go right back to the same thing. So that can be, yeah, I just really relate to what you said. And again, that's kind of like where Spread the Positive kind of originated too, was just, just finding anything that I could, any type of platform that just is a reminder that stuff is working and we are working towards a better overall future, even when it doesn't seem like it. So definitely relate to pretty much every single thing you just said. And it's so commendable, and your perseverance and everything that it took for you to make that. I mean, that's incredible. So shouts to you.
Thanks.
First and foremost, for all you do, what you stand for, and how you got to this place, because it's truly amazing.
Thank you.
Yes. So with that being said, and it kind of transitions well into like one of the main topics, it's always like positive mindset. It's such a buzzword these days. Everybody's talking about professional development, and mindset, and mindfulness, and all these things. But with someone like you that's overcome what you've overcome and created what you've created, I always like have to dive in. Like, how? Like I always say that. Like, just how do you do it? What are some of your go-to tips and routines? Just can you speak on that some?
Well, I love what you said. It's about finding what is working, because that's how you beat depression. That's how you beat anxiety. That's how you beat all of the obstacles that are going to come your way. So the next part of my story is that I ended up moving to Nashville to take a job to try to learn this business, and I ended up getting fired, and I can't, my mortgage is now, going to hell in a handbasket, all the stuff I ended up paying. I never lost it, but everything in my life was going wrong, and I'm having to live in my car and work for free for some people for 9 months. Wow. I was very skinny. I had nothing. I mean, again, the hardest thing was all the public shame. Like all the people you love who were speaking in love in a way to protect you, me, I'll speak from my own experience, and said things that weren't supportive because on paper they didn't understand. And so having to try to build a life to create the impact that I wanted to with having no support and having no knowledge that I was even doing it right, because I'd never done it before. I had no freaking clue. And this wasn't a popular thing to be working and developing the urban core. It was very unpopular, but he said it wouldn't work. 2010, I moved to Nashville.
Me too.
Yeah.
Weird.
2000.
February of 2010.
I was October 2009.
Okay.
And then I was here for the floods.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is going on with this city?
Real.
This place is crazy.
Like really early when I was in
I had no
too.
idea.
Like, everybody was calling to check on me. I'm like, yeah, this is insane.
I was out driving for dollars.
Yeah.
In that storm. I was out there
feel you.
jumping over puddles. Yeah. It was crazy. But I love what you said, is find what works. So in the darkest time of my life, and I've had a lot of things go wrong, from living in my car, I've been sued a ton. I've had haters come out of the woodwork. I've had people that you think would love and be there for you forever, be the biggest backstabbers of your life. And I've had $1 million stolen before I had $1 million able to be stolen. And it's just, a lot of things have gone wrong. And the hardest ones are when the people you love the most turn on you. And so in the days that I wanted to give up the hardest on life, not just business, because I wanted to quit for friggin' 10 years. There's a moment in every day I do want to quit. Sorry, team. I know my staff are listening to this, but it's hard. It's way harder than you show. It's a lot of burden. It's a lot to carry, but you have to know why it's worth it. If you don't, I don't know how the freak anybody does this without having it powerfully tied to your why. If you actually could see around my office, everything in here is to idiot-proof all these subliminal reasons for why it's worth keeping going. Even the Michael Scott poster. Even the Michael Scott. Always. Yeah, I've got a Dwight Schrute poster that says, "I am ready to face any challenges that might be foolish enough to face me."
Love it.
So you got to write on the board. My darkest days, I would get up. I've got a whiteboard in every room of my house, every room of my office, and I would just write. Some days, all I could write was, "I have legs." That's all I could write, because that was the only thing that seemed to be going well that day. Or, "My mom loves me."
Wow.
Or, "I have this person in my life." Or, "I have a beautiful office." Or, "My hair is pretty today. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. What is working, it can be the simplest things.
Right.
I'm not diseased. Like,
Right.
you got to find something. I would literally write it on my whiteboard until I had enough strength to try to send an email that day. It's been a difficult road. And so my strategy has been exactly what you said. Find what is working.
Right.
Write that out. I spend an hour and a half every morning getting my mind right. I look at my vision board. I don't give a crap if it's cheesy.
Right. No.
I'm overcoming things that other people have never had the guts to overcome.
Big facts.
It takes a lot to keep yourself mentally stable enough to have the guts to go for it.
Absolutely.
I'm working in developing nations now in some of the most difficult environments after disasters ever. I'm working with world leaders. I'm helping people by coaching. I'm building new businesses. I'm starting ideas. I'm inventing technologies. All of this takes guts and money, and it's hard, and it's very risky.
Absolutely.
And so you've got to look at your vision board and realize what matters. Why am I doing this anyway? What is the ripple effect impact of what this little movement or this big movement will cause in my lifetime or past my lifetime? And realize that we all have terminal illness. We all are going to die. Mm-hmm. And so if you act like that, it brings a freedom. Sounds morbid, but it brings a freedom to go for it, unlike anybody else, and realize this too shall pass no matter what it is. And so I've got the space stuff. I've got a lot of space stuff because it reminds me of, it's really aerial, very aerial, how small this problem is compared to the universe of planets and how big our God is and how microscopic this one moment is in the fullness of time. So that's what all the space stuff is. I've got Elon Musk up on my wall with a picture of Tesla, SpaceX, and Solar City, realizing if he can freaking run all those and has 6 kids, I have no idea what I'm doing in my life. This is such peasant stuff. So yeah, it's crazy. I've got it's a mini vision board all over through the art on my walls, literally what I wear, who I hang out with. It takes a lot. So if you're gonna have big things you want to go for, you have to create synergy. What you're listening to, what you're eating, what you're wearing, where you're spending your money, who you're hanging out with, and listening to spread the positive.
Man, I can't, man, that hit home too. That hit home on a weird level as well. Just the why behind everything and being able to not lose sight of that no matter what. It's super hard. Like I can totally relate to every single thing you just said again, but it's inspiring to hear someone on your level having the same, self-doubt type things and struggles that literally all of us go through. So it's always nice to just get some confirmation that
I idiot-proofed it for myself.
Yeah.
I made a list. I was like, all right, if I was Satan, how would I knock myself out of the game?
Damn,
I did.
like that.
I did. And then I put, here's the 5 top ways that I would knock me out of the game. And then here's the top 5 things that I would have to engage in to stay in the game.
Okay.
I'm telling you, I read it every morning. I don't care if it sounds stupid.
No.
I'm going for big things.
I love it.
And so number 1 is insecurity. Mm-hmm. So if I'm too nervous to do this podcast with you, or if I'm too insecure, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not la 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 la, or this part of my life isn't perfect, so I shouldn't share.
Right.
I'm sharing what is working.
I love it.
I've got a lot of crap that isn't working, but this is the stuff that might help someone else. And if you've overcome anything, you can help someone else.
That's so good, and it's so important to talk. I've been working on that for a long time. The whole being synergistic in all of the areas in your life, because even if you're slipping in one of those, like it can domino effect into all 7 real quick. Like the 7 equities, I'm sure you're super familiar with all that, but man, it's imperative to have like that consistency. And like I said, I used to listen to all the gangster rap, like I still do. I still got to get some good hip hop in my life, but like
I have a dance break every now and then for sure.
Right. And I've realized like all these podcasts are like subconsciously you're really taking in a lot of that.
Absolutely.
And it's super important to always have that self-awareness and being able to have those tools in the toolbox to switch that up and get your mind right. So definitely agree with all that.
Well, the brain isn't wired to make you succeed,
right,
or to make you be the biggest or the first or anything like that. It is made to keep you alive. And so it's extremely risk averse, and it's going to, shock you with fear and all this stuff and make you not want to stand out of your village, because if you get kicked out of your village, you're going to get eaten by a dinosaur.
Right.
And so if we can keep you in your village, then you're safe.
Right.
And so you have to be very careful which village you plant yourself in.
Cool.
Because if you're the outlier, then your body will be in a constant state of shock, and you will literally feel things that you will associate with and can and should associate with dying, or you're going to die if you don't do this. And so your brain and your body will shut down on the steps that you really need to take to be everything that you're supposed to be in your life. And so you just have to manage, what village am I in?
Right.
Are they bigger thinkers than me? Are they going to kick my butt if I'm not going for my potential?
Man, that's strong. That's really, really, really strong. And speaking of, I mean, that kind of transitions well, and we've been talking about it in a sense, but just your ability to focus on the bigger picture and things that you can affect and the things you want to effectively change is something I haven't seen a lot of in any capacity, and it's like I said, it's why you're here. It's why I've been trying to get this lined up for so long and so excited about this. But yeah, can you just speak on why? I mean, I guess it's just so deep rooted in your soul, like the big heart, big community, being there for others. Like why is that so important to you?
I'm going to say it's natural for me to care about others.
Right.
I am a caring, giving person, but I was never ever confident to do it at this level. So I don't want anybody to think that you're born with this crap.
Right.
It's developed. And when you sign up for something, God will pick you for more and more things because he knows he can trust you. But you got to keep raising your hand even when you're terrified. And so for me, the name Ariel means to keep the big picture in mind.
Right.
It's take yourself out of this and remember this has never been about you. Because it's so much easier to do something for someone else than it is yourself for a lot of people, especially givers. And so if you can just remember, this has never been about you. Because you were not happy living in your car, but you can live in your car.
Right.
You're not a person that needs stuff. I have nice stuff now, but I don't need this stuff. And so if this was about me, I would have friggin' quit. I was a millionaire at 23.
Right.
I didn't need to keep going. I'm keep going so I can have more resources. Because when crap hits the fan, you can help more when you have more.
Right.
And how can you be God's hands and feet? If you have nothing, you can't even feed your own family.
Yeah.
When crap hits the fan, I can take people in, and I have. I can ship supplies down. I can fund a roof going on. I can do other things, and it doesn't destroy my life, my family, my businesses to be able to help. So when you realize money is nothing but an expansion tool for whatever it touches, poverty, opportunity, you have to be very careful. It's made up. It's all BS. It's just a fake thing that we invented for society to be able to function on. I'm not going to get too deep here.
Right. No, I'm
but
with you.
if you can harness this fake thing,
Right.
then whatever it touches will expand. And so what do you want it to expand in your life? What are you buying that can make a greater difference? That's why you need to be buying from socially conscious businesses. We let our homeowners know that because you bought this house, we sponsored an orphan in your name. There's now somebody that has food, water, shelter, education because of you. We sponsored 12 different local organizations, and we're helping women get out of abusive situations. We're creating jobs for people getting out of trafficking. There's so many things because you bought from us that the ripple effect of your purchase has affected. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that. And if I didn't share that with them, I'm not showing off and bragging.
Exactly.
I'm
Thank
just
you for
sharing.
that,
You
yeah.
were part of this. You get the blessing of being part of this.
That's so good. That's the end goal for the network. That's like you just took the words out of my mouth, soul and head and heart.
Oh,
It's
wow.
just like it's exactly it. Like I do real estate as well. I use this as a vehicle to build my why. Like Spread the Positive is 100% my why. It's why I get up in the morning. Like it might sound corny or cliche or whatever, but it's literally like you asked me why I do this. I said it's needed. It's a cliche answer again, but I firmly believe that. Like raising morale, raising awareness for worthy causes. Like you said, all the philanthropic and community outreach efforts that are coming from you doing business, like why are we not all doing it for those reasons? Like that's the whole thing with this network concept we've been pushing is like you got to have good reviews, you got to take care of your people, you got to take care of your employees, you got to have community ties or you're not STP approved, and like I'm not 24/7 flawless in my business practices, none of us are, but just being transparent, being open, and really being passionate about finding those opportunities and doing it for the right reasons is, I guess I've just always been blessed enough to have those types of people in front of me and showing me why you got to do it like that.
And if you don't, you have YouTube.
Yeah.
For the people that don't have access to this amazing network, you've got YouTube. There's no
Yeah.
excuse. There's a million motivational videos out there with some of the greatest impactful people in the world sharing strategies on how you can overcome things or how to have the right
Deepest thoughts,
mindset.
You know? Like, it's crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you've got access, even if they can't sit with you at a bar or a
Right.
coffee shop, you have access to the positive voices that you need in your head, and you've got access to this podcast.
Right. And it's so good, and it's just so therapeutic to hear someone, again, like you, on this level that is like, yes, this is how it should be, why I do it like this, and, you know, it's just such a inspirational factor to be able to, you know, have these conversations and see you doing it the way you're doing it, and for these reasons that, like, you're like, yes, this is viable, this is something that needs to happen and should happen, and it's just it's just the best. Thank you.
You're
first and
welcome.
foremost.
Well, it's not natural. It's intentional.
Yeah,
Again,
exactly.
your brain is there to tell you what's the easiest, laziest way to not harm yourself, so you can survive and not overstress anything and just be comfortable. That's it. And so when I wake up, I know that crap. I know the strategy. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to beat this. So I have a ritual every morning, and I'm horrible at rituals because I am I change a lot. You know, I've got a lot of change in my life. That's just what my little tests say. So I get up, I do my time with God. I look at my vision board, I read my eulogy, I write, and I listen to at least 3 10, 20-minute long YouTube videos between getting ready and being at work,
Just in the
walking in the
background
door.
as you're-
I'm just listening to it. What else am I
Right.
going to do?
Right.
Listen to that, and I just fill my mind with the right things,
Yeah.
so that when a situation happens in life, because life happens and I'm not good at everything, so
Right.
some of it's, you know, user flaw, newness flaw, or, you know, you messed up, I just didn't
happens.
realize. Stuff happens, and you can't control everything. So when they do, what are the filters in which I can see that coming into my life, and how can I ninja them into being something that was good, or you learn quickly.
Right.
And recognizing just the sheer, if you listen to enough successful people, they're always saying failure, if you're not failing it hard enough and fast enough, you're not doing anything that matters. So instead of getting like, I'm a failure, I'm a loser, I'm never gonna make it, instead of viewing it that way, you now view it as, this is part of the plan.
Yeah.
I've learned everything in my life at one point in my life.
Yeah.
This is me crawling in this specific area. This is me trying to walk and falling. Doesn't mean I'm a failure forever. Stop brain telling me not to do this anymore. So you just have to just find awesome mind tricks to overcome this Oregon,
Yeah.
so you can actually do what you want to do.
I needed that too, so thank you for that as well. Wanted to get into kind of the key, I mean, it's the tagline I always use for Spread the Positive, is showcasing and facilitating what's actually going right, what's making a positive impact. Simple as that. Like I've already said numerous times, pretty much everything you do is a great example of what's going right in my world, why I follow you, why I've been trying to put this together, like I said again, but it's just, I think it's super important to talk about these things that are making a positive impact, and folks like you are just such a great resource of like these examples. So from the work, you know, in the British Virgin Islands, to the puppy rescues, to, you know, saving orphanages and all this stuff that you do, and hurricane relief and all the great, like, you just go head on into some of the most difficult situations ever. So just having that type of, you know, bank to pull from, I'm pumped to hear some of your like go-to examples of what's going right.
What's going right? What's going right is taking that time every morning to refill my cup. I hate that phrase, but my ability to give from others comes from my being able to tap into the source, which is God, in my life. And from that place of wholeness and healing, I can give.
Yeah.
I do need that time. And I haven't always made time for that time. And I've been operating that way historically, because an empty cup doesn't have a lot to give. Same thing with if you're broke, you can't financially fund a lot of amazing things. So it's important to overcome whatever you can overcome so you can give to others. So some fun ways, not bragging, not showing, not anything, but some little minor tweaks of what I do that does work, that has a bigger impact than, it doesn't take that much effort, but it has a long-term impact, is I'm always challenging people to find a way to use their life, business, or resources as a force for good. And so for me, I use my house. I've taken, I have a house. This is just to challenge other people. I have a house. I've been able to take in women coming out of abusive situations and allow them to live in my house. Why? Because I have a big house. I don't need a big house. I'm happy in a condo, but I bought a bigger house so I can take people in. I don't stay with me forever, but it was knowing that I have this place they didn't feel like they're putting me out. So what else? I have other properties, and I have an office, and I allow people to convene in those spaces. I've let other nonprofits use my spaces for board meetings or strategy sessions or this or that. I use my free time to coach people for free, or I coach professionally, but I also have worked with people dealing with serious depression or suicide, and I've done strategy sessions with them, understanding how to find their purpose, and I've figured out what are some exercises to allow people to figure that out. And the biggest one is writing your eulogy. And again, it sounds morbid, but when you write what the story of what you want the end to look like, you know what matters. All the things you think you should do according to society go away. What do you really want to have happen in your one chance on earth? And that rises to the top. And then you design a life around that. And so when I go to the BVI, I went down there in response to the hurricanes. And I saw how Branson was using the nicest catamaran in the world, his catamaran, the Necker Bell, as a rescue boat. And I saw how other island owners were using their helicopters as relief drop helicopters. It's their personal helicopters. And I saw how the founders of Otterbox brought in a cruise ship and fed the whole country for 120 days. And it's just amazing that those people had more than enough. And that was a time that I was really going through some hard stuff. And I was dealing with a lot, and I would call it burnout, but it was more than that. It was bad. And I didn't want to go on, but when I saw that these successful business people had so much more than enough that it wasn't going to kill them to be able to help in that way, I was like, how can I use my life in this way? So I had a media production company, and we ended up making a docuseries allowing people to come back and follow and join in the recovery. And so on our way out, we always take puppies with us because the shelter's overrun and there's not enough residents in BVI to be able to take all these puppies on. And so we just brought back puppy number 69 2 days ago. Yeah. And so it's a one puppy at a time or two puppies at a time. Ends up, it'll be 100 by the end of the year, I'm sure.
Right.
And so it's the little incremental things. Okay, I've got a business. What can I do to help? I've got a house. What can I do to help? I've got time. I've got energy. I've overcome something. Whatever it is, I want you to go home and write, how can I help someone else with whatever I have? And if all you have is a car because you're living in your car, how can you use that car to help someone else? So just thinking about that, and what's interesting is that it brings so much joy to your life, so much more worth living.
Yeah.
And it's weird how that works. And it doesn't matter what you're going through, when you find a way to be part of something bigger than yourself or just help anyone else, then it's amazing. And you can't, this is the hard part, okay? This is something really important I want to share, because I had taken my whole staff to Africa in 2015, and we gave away all these lanterns, like solar lanterns, to this community that had nothing, and they couldn't do school, and it was really bad that they didn't have light in their homes, and they're dying of these, like, all the smoke from the kerosene, and a couple people that we gave them to were like fighting with us and yelling and taking more than they should have, and it like really bothered me. How could these people be so ungrateful that they would just take these things, and they had such a bad attitude? They weren't even happy. And my mentor at the time said, Britnie, you have no idea if they were, just because of the language difference, taking one to the sick old lady next door that couldn't be there. You have no idea what just happened to them in their life. But it's not for you to know. You have to give without having to see your desired result. I was just talking to my team about this earlier. What is the ripple effect of your life? And it's not even for you to know. You just have to start it and know that something bigger will happen better because you were there. You have no idea. And that's fine, because if this was about your pride and your ego, then you aren't giving with a pure heart. So how can you be giving with whatever you have without having to see your desired result? Because how many people in your life, I'll ask you, have changed your life dramatically and you'll never, ever be able to tell them, or they'll never know? Thousands.
Easily.
One thing, and they'll never know.
Yeah. Honestly, if this never happened, you wouldn't. You know, like you and your team do that for so many. So
Thank you.
yeah, that's amazing. And definitely very, very spread the positive in itself. So
Thank you.
Man, this is awesome. And kind of some of the closing questions we always ask all of our guests. One is, you just described like some of your mentors and all of that. I always like to ask our guests, when you hear the phrase "spread the positive," now that you're a little more familiar with it, who's the first person that comes to mind?
There is a lady named Heidi Baker.
Okay.
And she has lived a life of service in Mozambique and throughout greater Africa, but definitely in Mozambique. And I think she's like died a few times. She's had a lot of really,
Wow.
She's had some crazy stuff happen to her, but she is just a servant of God and loves on people and feeds people and has built so many things over there. And she comes from a great family, and she has been through disease and hardship, and she's been stabbed and like so many things, but she lives every day just as a completely surrendered vessel of God. And I used to be really, really jealous of her life because I just want to do that so bad. But God took me on a different path. But I want to have,
You're still doing it.
I just love it. Yeah, it's different. It's
Yeah.
different. And so what's interesting about that is just because you have a picture of what things should be, you only know what you know today. And so if you're going in the direction of, if my direction is I want to serve as many people as I can, I want to elevate people in places. That's the tagline of Ariel. I want everything in my life to be a vehicle for positive transformation. Then you just have to trust that that picture is going to continue to expand into something bigger and bigger and bigger if you keep going.
Right.
But it's subject to change.
Right.
So.
Where do you know Heidi?
Yeah, I've met her several times.
Okay.
She is.
Where's she located?
She's in Mozambique, Africa,
okay.
still. Yeah,
Wow.
She's there. I've got a picture of her
Oh,
right
nice.
on my wall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shouts to Heidi. That's
She's
amazing.
amazing.
Yes, absolutely. Man, see, I love hearing that. That's why I do this. You wanted another reason to hear about Heidi.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Follow her.
And then another one of our signature closing segments, if you will, is something we call the Grateful For. 4 things you're most grateful for right now. What you got?
I am grateful for a team that believes in the vision and works really, really hard to do things that are not always looked at as possible in the beginning.
Love that.
I am grateful for a loving family that has, especially my mom, has listened to me cry for years. For years. She was still homeschooling the 6th child, and I would call her up, and my little sister Callie is like, all right, time for me to take a break, because I would just cry, just go through it. Oh man, I am grateful to live in a country that has so much access if we just try it all. You can organize information and opportunity, and you can be anything that you want. We're so blessed. And the 4th one, I am grateful. God, I have so many things to be grateful for. I am grateful to be on this podcast, and I'm grateful that you are doing what you're doing, because it's not going to be easy, and you're going to have people tell you it's impossible or it doesn't matter. And I'm grateful that there are people like you who are willing to be the bridge in the gap to fight one of the greatest things that knock people out of the game, which is depression. And this is the #1 tool to overcome it. And so I'm proud of you, and I'm grateful to be here today on that. And I'm grateful to be even invited. That's a huge opportunity.
Means more than you know, so thank you. Thank you so much. Not trying to get in my feels right now as we finish this up, but that means so much, and thank you for that. And what we always do is just kind of a closing mantra, kind of something to wrap this all up, and something to leave the audience with, to take with them, and all of that.
Closing mantra.
Yep.
I don't know if it's a mantra or a quote, but
Okay,
this
quote
quote that
mantra,
has,
anything.
my favorite quote is Napoleon Hill's, "With every obstacle carries with it a seed of equal or greater opportunity." And so when things go wrong, or it's an obstacle or whatever, instead of feeling sorry for yourself or a victim or falling apart, just find that seed and say there's a equal or greater opportunity in this. And if you really look back at your life, some of the worst people in my life brought me the best things later, or somehow connected me to something. It was the seed. It wasn't them. It was the seed that came from them. And so if you're looking for it, then you won't have that unforgiveness or anger or all the other horrible emotions that come from these obstacles. So that is my favorite quote. That is something I live by every day, is trying to find the good. There's always a reason. God will work it out for your good in the end if you just keep going.
That's probably the most spread the positive explanation maybe ever. So congratulations on that as well. Anything in closing, anything you want to plug, places people can find you?
Yeah, follow me. Follow me on Instagram and also YouTube. It's just at Britnie Turner.
Okay.
We have a new company called Aerial Recovery Group that is doing disaster resiliency training as well as disaster relief and recovery and redevelopment.
Nice.
I've got a group called G-Force. I've got a podcast as well as a mastermind, which is connecting the forces for good in the world. And so you are invited to be part of that.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. It's absolutely it. And it's a lot of hands-on training for entrepreneurs on how to make those tweaks to be impactful.
I would be honored to be involved at any capacity. So
absolutely.
Yes.
Awesome.
And thank you again. Like I said multiple times, you're one of the best examples I've come across of everything we're looking to bring light to, and it's been an honor and a privilege. This office and just this whole the production. It's goals. Like it's literally goals of what I'm aiming to do is spread the positive. So thank you for the inspiration and all you do to spread the positive.
Thank you.
Absolutely.